What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a Welsh Artist Top 10 brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Evan David. Thank you, Evan David. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the patron link on the end screen. We could not do it without you. All right, if you've never been with us before, Evan David has great write-ups. I'm going to tell you right away the music will not be in the video, but it will be at a Vimeo link below. Just go click there and you can watch this thing from the jump. All right, Evan David says, rock and roll legend has it that there's an old Welsh saying based on a poem by one Brian Harris and much beloved by Wales's various souvenir shops and such like, that claims that, quote, to be born Welsh is to be born privileged, not with a silver spoon in your mouth, but music in your blood and poetry in your soul. And indeed, as can often be the case with such sayings, there nevertheless remains a rock-solid core of historical truth underneath its apparent tourist-trapped glibness, particularly with regards to the fundamental, even essential role that music of all styles and genres has played in Welsh life and culture over the years. After all, Wales' self-proclaimed, if not self-evident status as the legendary land of song stems in part from a rich historical legacy of bardic tradition going at least as far back as the medieval period and given new life by the reinvention of the uniquely Welsh literary, musical, and wider cultural festival known as Eisteddfod by often London-based Welsh patriots back in the 18th century. Before then, being enhanced still further by the collective communal musical response of the Welsh people to the upheavals of the 19th century Industrial Revolution, in which Welsh coal, slate, and steel played such a crucial, even indispensable part. Indeed, a very strong argument can be made that the rich musical legacy of the 19th century has allowed the Welsh to boast both the world's finest national anthem in the shape of, I'm just going to give the English version of it, Land of My Fathers, which was written in 1856, as well as one of his most beautiful hymns, namely Pure Heart, which was written in the 1890s, both of which are often crowd favorites in Welsh rugby matches and other such modern-day mass gatherings. As you probably already figured out, I am not from Wales. I'm from the United States, so I'm going to butcher some of these names, and some of these names I'm not even going to attempt, but Evan David does give the proper name, and he gives the English translation to help me out. All right, back to his writer. As such, to quote the Rough Guide to Wales, quote, up until very recently, mention of Welsh music conjured up images of miners in their Sunday best collectively raising the roof of their local chapel, end quote. And yet as the same guidebook then goes on to say, quote, whereas male choirs often remain a feature of Welsh life, Welsh music also extends far beyond the dwindling chapels into the country's halls, clubs, festival sites, and pubs, where Dylan Thomas's observation that, quote, we are a musical nation is often seen and heard to be true. In quieter venues, harp players repay their musical debt to ancestors who accompanied the ancient bards, while modern folk draws directly from the broader Celtic musical tradition. Exponents of Welsh language rock have largely traded in their dreams of commercial success for unabashed nationalism expressed through a range of styles from punk to hip-hop. Some bands sing in both English and Welsh, and there's a fast-growing scene in English language Welsh rock, which is one of the most dominant and successful musical genres in Britain in the late 90s, thanks to bands like the Manic Street Preachers, the Stereophonics, and Catatonia. Although the cool Cymru hype has faded, Wales is still churning out a huge amount of good music for a country of just over 3 million people, which is crazy. I live in the Dallas area in Texas in the United States, and we have about 7.5 million people that live in this area. We definitely don't have this good of music, although we do have some good music. Indeed, and as alluded to above, perhaps the most significant historical factor in determining the relative success, or in some case lack of success, of modern-day Welsh musical artists on a national or even global level is the fact that many of them had the option to sing in more than one language to a greater extent than was the case for most of their counterparts in Scotland, Ireland, and especially England. For while such 20th century Welsh music legends such as Tom Jones and Shirley Bassey were more than able to adeptly take advantage of the increasingly global reach of the English language to further their own illustrious and international music careers, other Welsh artists instead chose to use their musical talents on a more localized, specifically Welsh-speaking level, often seeking in the process to help further the wider cultural profile and even national survival of the then endangered Welsh language itself, which had gradually lost the vast majority of its previous cultural prestige, even as the use of English had gradually, and often indifferently, if not downright cruelly, been officially imposed upon the Welsh people ever since the conquest of Wales itself by the English King Edward I all the way back in 1282. Thus, and especially from the late 1960s, the often increased radical music of Welsh language singers such as Mike Stevens, in particular David Iwan. Iwan, that's one of those things where names, the latter of whom also co-founded the most prominent Welsh language record label, Sane Records, in 1969, which is still going strong to this day, provided ample cultural fuel for what became increasingly politically charged campaigns to secure and enhance the official status of Welsh in its beleaguered homeland. Campaigns which happily by now have, by and large, successfully drawn fruit with various Welsh language acts, the establishment of a Welsh-speaking radio and TV channels, and finally the establishment of the Cardiff-based Welsh Assembly, later known as the Welsh Parliament or Synod, as the 21st century dawned. As a result of such pioneering musical as well as wider socio-political work by both these artists and many others, moreover, and as Welsh radio presenter and music expert Hugh Stevens once put it, quote, ever since the heady days of the 1990s, Welsh pop has gone from strength to strength. But it's not just about the singers and the bands. There's a feeling now that Wales is a vibrant, creative place that anything's possible here, and far from being something that you'd hide, like it was for many bands in the 1960s for a lot of people. Welshness is a creative badge of honor. Indeed, if you scratch under the surface of most of the myriad forms of 21st century music, the odds are pretty darn good you'll find a pioneering role played by one or more Welsh artists in there somewhere, whether it be the likes of Bryn Fawn and Catherine Jenkins' role in popularizing classical opera to modern audiences, or the likes of Wren and Sage Todd's role in pushing the emotional and linguistic boundaries of modern-day rap and hip-hop. Thus, and while figures such as the latter may still clash with the Welsh cultural establishments in many ways, witness Todd's an avowedly bilingual performance pulling out of Estenfall last year and a row over the extent to which he was allowed to use English language lyrics while performing at a strictly Welsh-speaking event. If nothing else, the very fact that such cultural clashes takes place at all shows that music itself must still have an important emotional, socio-political, and cultural role to play in Welsh life if people want to, if not fight, then at least argue passionately about it, a level of importance which moreover be easily gauged by the ever formidable levels of mass crowd singing usually takes place before and during the Welsh national anthem matches in both rugby and football to boot. Meanwhile, as something of a passionate Welshman, Evan David says, as well as a musical enthusiast myself, as Sean can doubtless attest, I've long sought to introduce Welsh music in both its languages to the wider RTTC audience, whether during our weekly live streams, Wednesdays at 5 o'clock Central Time, or during some of my previous top 10s. Examples, Evan David's Wildcards top 10 from a couple years back included one of my all-time favorite Welsh language tunes, namely Rock and Roll Dream by Edward H. Daffis, but I digress. And with St. David's Day, which celebrates Wales' own official patron saint being held every March, and it's March of 2024 when I'm filming this, it seemed to me that this was as good a time as any to introduce some of my own personal favorite Welsh songs and artists to the RTCC community on a more formal basis. Moreover, while some of Wales' best-known musical megastars do indeed make an appearance herein, other artists will inevitably be decidedly more obscure to a non-Welsh audience, especially since I've deliberately included several Welsh language tunes on the list. Although in an attempt to spare Sean's blushes much as possible in terms of Welsh pronunciation and so forth, I've endeavored to include a set of translated English lyrics, which I do for all foreign songs, in some shape or form wherever applicable in each case. In the meantime, all that remains is for me to hope that RTTC viewers, both Welsh and non-Welsh alike, enjoy this top 10, which as ever was designed to stimulate discussion rather than as an attempt to be in any way definitive on the subject. Keep that in mind. To look forward as ever to seeing your own top 10 lists in the comments below and to sing out as loudly as possible a hearty, and he has it in Wales, but also Wales forever. All right, I'll remind you again, the music will not be in the video, but it'll be a Vimeo link below. Let's kick this thing off with number 10. And you see it below, Delilah by Tom Jones. First released as a single in February 1968, eventually reaching number 2 in the UK singles chart. This melodramatic murder ballad, which in decades since its release, has become a favorite part of the repertoire of songs performed by Welsh rugby crowds before international matches, has nevertheless also become increasingly controversial of late to boot, with many expressing discomfort at the violence towards women depicted in its lyrics, to the extent that the Welsh Rugby Union itself has officially chosen not to play it before matches in recent years. Nevertheless, for all the negative lyrical baggage now associated with it, the sheer dramatic power of the tune itself remains undeniable. And while if push comes to shove, I would probably argue that the sensational Alex Harvey Band's surreal vaudevillian cover version from 1975 remains my personal favorite, I would still argue that Jones's original version of Delilah has a pathos and power all its own, with the clip of the tune being performed live on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1968 going a long way to show why, even a full 6 years after his chart debut, Tom Jones still arguably remains the most famous Welsh musical artist of all time. And as such simply had to be included on this list. We are going to watch that performance from the Ed Sullivan Show. I'm going to have the lyrics up when I can, but I'm watching a lot of videos, so I can't. Thanks again, Evan David. Delilah, what a performance, man. Tom already had beads of sweat from the very jump, right? Pouring down out there in that tux. I'd be the same way under those lights, man. It gets hot. But what a performance. What a powerhouse performance. And I just put up the caption so I could read the lyrics while it was going on. It's a murder ballad, as Evan David said. One of my favorite artists of all time, Nick Cave, has a whole album of murder ballads. Like, he could have come and killed the guy instead of his woman that was cheating on him. I mean, it's just one of those things like that. Just happens to choose the woman. He could have easily just come and killed the guy who did it. But really, really good song. Great way to start this off. Next up at number 9, we got Adra, which means home, by Gwyneth Gwynn. First released as part of her debut album, Temporary Face, in 2005. Evan David said, I felt I had to include this emotionally moving ode to homesickness, whether for a place, a person, or both, on this list for 2 main reasons. The first of which represents something of a conflict of interest, and both that Gwyneth and myself attended the same Welsh language high school in North Wales back in the day. We weren't close friends or anything, I hasten to add, but she still came across as a very nice as well as very talented person, all told. The second and far more important reason for putting this particular song on my list, it is simply a ruddy, good tune, which moreover captures the old Welsh idea of hiereth, which very roughly translates as kind of an unattainable longing for something, somewhere, or someone that you can't get back to, as well as, if not better than any other tune I've ever heard, as I hope you will agree. In the meantime, I'd like you to react to this audio-only video, which contains both the Welsh and English lyrics of the tune. All right, home. Really well done. Very pretty arrangement. She sounds fantastic. A little bit of English thrown in there, especially a little Neil Young and Leonard Skinner at the start. But I do like the overall message of the song. Just think that is really well done. Like I said, really pretty in the musical. Or, the pictures with the lyrics were fantastic. Just absolutely beautiful. Evan Davis brought something like this. I don't know if it's this song, but something like this to the streams before, where it showed Wales and then the lyric video. So I don't know if it was that one or another one, but I do remember that. It was really pretty. Next up is at number 8, we got Bonnie Tyler, Lost in France. First released as a single in 1976 and reaching number 9 on the UK singles chart. This was a Swansea-born song, which was the second single under the name of Bonnie Tyler. Her birth name had been Gaynor Hopkins, but she first chose to change it to Shireen Davis to avoid confusion with fellow Welsh singing siren Mary Hopkin in 1969, before being advised to change it again after a London talent scout spotted her performing in a club in Swansea in 1975, and would prove to be one of the last songs that she released before her seemingly ill-advised failure to rest her voice for 6 weeks following an operation led her to acquire the distinctive raspy sound to her vocals with which she is often associated. I did not know that's why her voice sounded that way, especially in the aftermath of her lucrative association with producer Jim Steinman in the 80s, which in turn spawned the creation of such mammoth epic tunes as Total Eclipse of the Heart and Holding Out for a Hero. Both those songs were gigantic, right? Total Eclipse of the Heart was huge. I remember that coming out, and then Holding Out for a Hero was on the Footloose soundtrack. Tons of huge success there, both of which become iconic rock anthems in the decades since. Despite such latter-day successes, however, as well as my own other well-known fondness in RTT circles for Jim Simon's work elsewhere with his other famous creative partner, Meatloaf, I, for one, have nevertheless been drawn even more to the still powerful, yet somehow more innocent-sounding quality of Bonnie's voice at this point in her career, a quality which ebbs and flows throughout this tale of being irresistibly swept head over heels by the sunny carefreeness of an unexpected French summer romance, and as such, I feel that this is more than worthy of a place on this list, and we're going to react to the official music video. All right, Lost in France, Bonnie Tyler, really good. I do want to point out, remember, these are they're the artists. That's what the list is, not the songs. Because obviously Total Eclipse of the Heart or Holding Out for a Hero are absolute bangers. That's the first time I've heard this one, so I can't judge this one based on that, but it's based on the artist. But her voice sounds so much different. You can hear a little bit of Bonnie in there, but did not realize that that's why she had that vocal quality. I just thought that was how she was born, but well done. And you see it below. Next up at number 7, we got Amen Corner. A Paradise is Half as Nice. First released as a single in February 1969 and reaching number 1 on the UK singles chart, this blissfully romantic, if not very, very mildly blasphemous song about being so entranced by and enamored with a lover as to prefer spending more earthly time with her rather than caring about the hereafter, was by far and away the most successful Amen Corner's 6 UK hit singles after being translated into English. The original version had been written and performed in Italian by other artists, with lead singer Andy Fairweather Lowe recalling decades later how the band's chart success at this point meant that, quote, "We couldn't leave our house. The blinds were up all the time, the doors were shut, and if we played at the height of our fame and we'd strike up a song, you wouldn't hear a note that was being played, and then 20 minutes later, we were gone. We had our little window. 3 years, that's all. We never got a penny of that, by the way. So Amen Corner is famous, and I'm grateful for that. Actually half grateful that I never got the money and that God knows what I would have done with it, and it wouldn't have done anything good." Nevertheless, although Amen Corner themselves would indeed sadly break up before the end of 1969, the groovy music they created, and especially this glorious tune, would mean that they would be fondly remembered by many, including myself, Evan David says, to this day. I myself first heard this tune on a free cassette of 60s hits my parents got me from a petrol station when I was a kid, and has remained one of my all-time favorite tunes to this day. You will hopefully understand that when reacting to this clip of the tune being performed live on the German TV show Beat Club in 1969. By the way, they got their name from that of a soul music night regularly held in a club in their native Cardiff. All right, If Paradise is Half as Nice, some clean-cut lads up there, especially the lead singer up there in a full suit. A couple guys in the brass section. Just really good tune, right? Nice 60s sounding. So a fitting choice for number 7. All right, next up at number 6, we have Bren Fawn. I think that's how you say his name. Rebel Weekend, which is Weekend Rebel in English. First released as part of his first solo album, Days Without a Partner, in 1994, Bryn has long been lauded as one of the most versatile performers on the Welsh language scene, with thriving careers as both an actor and TV presenter, as well as a singer-songwriter, with both his hugely popular erstwhile band, I can't pronounce it, it's an untranslatable name, I'm afraid, Evan David says, and later during his own solo career, and it is well-earned skills as an archly humorous storyteller, which comes to the fore in this, one of my own personal all-time favorite Welsh language tunes, as he tells the tale of a smugly self-satisfied, modern-day Jekyll and Hyde type character who spends his working week as an immaculately well-behaved office worker, but as soon as he gets a chance, becomes the hell-raising hooligan figure implied by the song's title during the weekend. All right, Bryn with Weekend Rebel. And the story of the song is that he's this businessman, this well-accomplished man in his suit and everything throughout the week, and comes home at night and has his slippers by the fireplace. But on Friday night, this guy turns up for the weekend, right? And goes out, puts on a temporary tattoo. He's got his herbal tobacco, parties it up, has a good time. But by Monday, he's back in the office and knows that he's a made man because he can live that way during the week and have his fun on the weekend. So a well-done song. Now we get to the top 5 and a group I know very well. We got the Manic Street Preachers. This time we're going with the song A Design for Life. First released as a single in April of 96, reaching number 2 in the UK singles charts, as well as forming the centerpiece of the Manic's 4th studio album, the era defining Everything Must Go, when it was released a month or so later. This radical firebrand of a tune not only apparently helped to re-galvanize the band in the wake of the disappearance of their rhythm guitarist Richie Edwards the previous year, which is a crazy story, go read about it. But also, as Manic's bassist Nicky Wire once put it, it also very much, quote, a song which embedded in the South Wales valleys. The sound of that song and the lyrics seemed to resonate, I think, with where I was living at the time, which is surrounded by collieries. A design for life and knowledge is power, and the kind of idea of self-improvement and taking charge of your own destiny. Everything just came together perfectly. There's just a massive cultural treasure chest, which felt like it had been almost hidden, really, especially in terms of getting that out into pop culture. James Dean Bradfield, the singer and guitarist, also gave some different things, kind of saying it was about their culture too. We wanted to show you that, we weren't from England. Yeah, we were from our valley and from Wales. And I think we just wanted to show that we could put our things besides other things that were perceived as being great. The sheer radical potency of the socio-political artistic mixture that resulted from all this can be best discerned by reacting to this clip, which is a live performance on Later with Jules Holland show in May of 1996. I love MSP. Their song, If You Tolerate This, Then Your Children Will Be Next, is one of my probably top 50 songs of all time. All right, Manic Street Preachers, just a fantastic song, right? Fantastic. A great performance. The ambience of it all. You got the string players up. Just all of it was so well done, as most performances I see from Jules Holland are. I mean, they're probably cherry picked for me, but fantastic song. And number 5 for Manic Street Preachers. I don't know Welsh music anywhere like Evan David, so I'm not going to grade where he has stuff, but Yeah, I mean, they're fantastic. Next up at number 4, we got the Stereophonics. We're going with Local Boy in the Photograph. First release as the band's debut single in March of 97, reaching 51 in the UK singles chart, but then reaching as high as 14 on said chart when re-released nearly a year later. According to Stereophonics lead singer and lyricist Kelly Jones, this poignantly overwhelming tune owed its inspiration to a real-life tragedy, one which occurred when, quote, I used to play kind of county football, and there was a kid that used to play right back. I got to know him pretty well. He was a really cool kid. He was a good-looking kid, one of those ones that you looked at and thought, he's got it all. And then a few years later, we found out he jumped in front of a train, and we were all a bit shocked by it. And we read about it in the local paper. There's a picture of him smoking. I think it was a joint, actually, and that's the picture they used, and it was the local boy in the photograph. I'd never really known anybody our age to do that, to kind of end their life, and nobody really knew why he ended his life. When you're 18 or 19, you're quite naive, and you just write everything down. It was just more about a celebration of his life than it was about his death. Really about the kids sitting on the bank drinking, and lots of imagery of the seasons and the clocks going back. And that's what I've found, that descriptive writing is what people would stop and listen to, really. We're going to look at a clip of it being performed live at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff in July of 2001. What a great song, great performance. Look at the energy in the crowd. Some of the lyrics, the clocks go back, railway tracks, something blocks the line again, the train runs late for the first time, that's verse 2. Get into the chorus, and all the friends lay down the flowers, sit on the banks and drink for hours, talk of the way they saw him last, local boy in the photograph. He'll always be 23 if the train runs on and on, past the place they found his clothing. So just a powerful song and a great performance from the Stereophonics. All right, we're to Evan David's top 3 of Welsh artists. Number 3, it's the only one not on Spotify. We got Mike Stevens' Rue St. Michael, first released as part of his third studio album, Cuckoo, in 1977. In my eyes, at least, this maverick pioneer of psychedelic Welsh folk rock is one of the 2 giants of the Welsh language music scene who can legitimately claim the title of the Welsh Bob Dylan, should he wish to do so. More of the second one later. And while he has recorded a batch of excellent songs in English at various stages over the years, since the beginnings of his professional career in Manchester in the mid-1960s, including the highly recommended mostly English language album Outlander that was released by Warner Brothers in 1970. The vast majority of Stevens' strongest songs have undeniably been those he has recorded in Welsh, and is this joyous ode to the wonderfully stress-free life he was living in the Celtic-speaking region of France known as Brittany during this stage of his troubadour-esque career that has long been my personal favorite amongst them. For, and to quote Mike Stevens himself, these boozy Breton haunts were great places to be in at the time, and the happiness of the song shows how happy I was at the time. And it's this sheer sense of HWYL. I've never known how to say that. Evan David ends every live stream that way. Means goodbye in Welsh, but is also used as another word for joy in Welsh to boot, oozing throughout the song, which earns its high placement on my list. All right, I'm out here saying St. Michael, San Michel. Let's say it like Mike says it. Really good song. Evan David couldn't find the lyrics in English. He actually translated them for me. So as I'm reading it, it's just this guy's journey, and just all the things he encounters. There's no bacon for breakfast, but there is wine. But just a really well done song. The backing, it just really makes it stick in your head. All right, we got 2 left. And coming in at number 2, we got Catatonia. And their song Strange Glue is what Evan David chose to represent them. First released as part of the band's fantastic second studio album, International Velvet, in February 1998, and as a single in its own right 5 months later, reaching number 11 on the UK singles chart. Pound for pound, Catatonia have long been by far my own personal favorite Welsh band in either language. Indeed, the only reason why I haven't already done a Catatonia top 10 list for RTTC, that I was already beaten to the punch by fellow RTTC patron Ian. Yes, you were. Trey did that one a couple years back. And while I was sorely tempted to include the album's anthemic title track with its unforgettable mantra of every day when I wake up, I thank the Lord I'm Welsh. On this list, ultimately, I decided that this bittersweet, sweetly melancholy yet determined tune, aptly described by Catatonia biographer David Owens, is, quote, another of their big-hearted ballads loaded with the emotional turmoil of fragile relationships, just pipped it to the post in terms of sheer song quality for me. Thanks in large part to lead singer Caris Matthews' blistering, powerful, and emotionally evocative vocal performance, as captured in both the studio version as well as this live performance at 1998's Glastonbury Festival. Man, I would love to go there someday. Just a powerful performance. Her voice is fantastic. I mean, that's live. There's a lot of wind going on. That is not easy as well. Just fantastic, man. Great choice for number 2. And at number 1, we have David Awan and his song, We're Still Here. First released as the title track of a joint album with Welsh folk group Arwag for Hire in 1983. According to David Awan himself, whom I already alluded to above, I think I called him David up there, but guys, the spelling with the Wales, I'm doing the best I can. These names are tough. I'm having to go look them up, trying to find interviews with them. Like it's tough for this American here, whom I already alluded to above, is the second of those 2 giants of Welsh language music, worthy of the title of the Welsh Bob Dylan, for this lengthy canon of politically radical folk songs. The genesis of this ultimate ode to defiant Welsh patriotism came at a, quote, terrible time when the Thatcher regime hit Wales heavily. Coal mines and steel works were closed, and I was in the middle of a terrible divorce. This is about how we're still here, despite everything and everyone, and even ourselves, end quote. More recently, however, and on a more positive note, the song, which had already become very popular amongst Welsh speakers ever since its creation, has since become even more widely known as a Welsh anthem, both within Wales itself. Indeed, it was estimated in 2022 that at least 35% of the Welsh population knew at least some of the words to the song, which is no mean feat when only 18% of the Welsh population are currently regarded as being fluent in the language. I just thought that was interesting. And on a more global level to boot, not least since it began to be used as an official song of the Welsh international football soccer team during their successful qualifying campaign for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, eventually reaching number 1 on the iTunes chart during that year as a result, and leading to Awan performing the song live at the Cardiff City Stadium before a crucial match with Austria to a rapturous reception. As David himself put it, quote, to sing a song that means so much to me for almost 40 years in concert after concert, and then to hear 30,000 Welsh fans joining in with such passion and feeling of support, what more could a man want, knowing that it all sprang from genuine support and indeed love for Wales, from Welsh speakers and English speakers. In that glorious moment, Wales came together as one nation. And it is in this sense of passionate national unity which the song endlessly evokes, which has by and large earned it the top spot on my list, Evan David said. It was later re-released for the World Cup itself in a remix version, which included both David's original and the crowd noise from the stadium performance mentioned above. And it's the official version of that video that we're going to react to right here. And it also includes a set of translated English lyrics. Let's go. Number 1 on Evan David's Welsh artist list. All right, David Awan. I mean, it could be Iwan. I could be pronounced as I could not find anybody pronouncing his last name. And I had to listen to his first name several times. It's not a name that we have here in the U.S. We have forms of it like David, but not that. But fantastic song, fantastic energy. So well done. The video was great, man. And the scenery is just next level, man. The beauty of that. So a great choice for number 1. And before we get to my favorites, we'll get to Evan David's honorable mentions. There's a ton of them as always, so I'm going to go through them quick. Those Were the Days by Mary Hopkins, Carry On Till Tomorrow by Badfinger, Revelation by Man, the whole album, and Moonraker by Shirley Bassey, Hymns and Arias by Max Boyce, 68 Guns by Mike Peters and the Alarm, This Old House by Shakin' Stevens, Sunny Spells by the Super Furry Animals, Buck Rogers by Feeder, Monster by The Automatic, Mercy by Duffy, Guns Don't Kill People, Rappers Do by Goldie Look and Chain, Pure Heart by Katherine Jenkins, and especially First Girl from Wales, New York City by Helen Webb, Motorcycle Emptiness by the Manic Street Preachers. We have a song reaction to that one up. Someone's Stolen My Nose by T-Bot Hughes. I know I pronounced that wrong, but it is what it is. Rock and Roll Dreams by Edward H. Daffis. And then Hello, Hello by Mike Stevens and International Velvet by Catatonia. Fantastic choices there. My favorite's going to be the last song, or the last artist. I guess I'm picking artist, but, you know, We're Still Here. And then Strange Glue by Catatonia, Local Boy, and The Photograph by the Stereophonics. Got to go with Delilah by Tom Jones. And, of course, The Design for Life by Manic Street Preachers. But many of you are going to know the Wales artists better than mine. There's several good ones there in the honorable mentions, are great ones. So let me know your list down below. Remember, Evan David said, this is just to get stuff out there. It is not a definitive list. He does not mean it that way. But let me know your favorites from this and the artists you'd like to see in this top 10 list that maybe didn't make it. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. Hit that big red subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I will see you.